Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. But you knew that already. Nice to see you here today, Wednesday. Making our way through the week. How did you sleep last night? Did you get up nice and early and feel bright and chipper and ready to roll, or were you more like me? Sometimes it takes a little bit of extra to get out of bed in the mornings. Well, I'm glad that you made it here. We're going to get you informed and up to date with what's going on in the world. We're going to have a lot of fun doing it. The Wake Up America Show brought to you by viewers like you, because what do? You hit that like button and you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We're grateful to have your support. You get 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. of a Wake Up America Show. And you get to help spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty, which is what we're all about on the show. I've got some exciting news. Are you ready for it? If you get up early and you listen to the show live, you get to hear the news before everybody else. Well, guess what? One of my favorite personalities is going to be on the show this week. On Friday, we're going to have Gavin McInnes on the show. I know. I'm so excited. And it's going to take everything I have not to kind of geek out, because there are very few right-wing personalities that I really kind of admire, look up to, or listen to their show. And I listen to Gavin McInnes' talk show every day. It's just because it's so hilarious. He does a bit with Anthony Cumia, excuse me. Anthony come all over, all over. Austin, careful. That's the kind of language they would use on that show. Not on this show, though. We don't do that. But Gavin will be on the show this week. I'm super excited. Reached out to him yesterday, and he got back to me right away. Sent me his phone number so I can, if I wanted to, I can text Gavin McInnes anytime. What's a celebrity that you wish you had their phone number and you could text back and forth? I don't know, for you, who do you wish that you could just be yeah, what's up, blah blah blah? Is it Gavin McInnes? Anyway, shut up about Gavin McInnes. He's gonna be on the show on Friday, and we're gonna talk to him about all kinds of stuff. If you have some questions for us to ask Gavin, you can always text the show and let us know at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I know it's Family Fridays where we have my lovely wife on the show, but we're going to have a little segment with Gavin McInnes as well. Yes, Kermode Bear is here with us. Bell R. Kermode Bear over on Rumble. Good to see you, brother. Matt Unruh dropping $5 for us already. Dude, you rock. Says, who thinks I can make the 12-hour drive to Missouri in less than 2 days for the flow trip? Oh, come on. You can do it in 1 day, Matt. Let's go, buddy. Come on.
How dare
you even think about not coming? Right. What's the news? All right. I am biased. Curly hair may have been the key to human brains growing so big. Well, Austin, why are you talking about this story? Is it because you're biased and because you have a beautiful, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wife with red curly hair that falls down all over her beautiful, creamy shoulders with her lovely little freckles, and then she's just the most beautiful, cutest thing you've ever seen? Yes, I am biased about that. So when I saw this story, I thought, well, why not talk about this? This is a love letter to your wife. And there's probably some curly-headed people watching this show. Do you have curly hair? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And then at 7:20 this morning, Roseanne Barr said no one died in the Holocaust. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? The Jews for the Committee of Being Upset at Everything Jewish that isn't Super Jew are very upset. And they've written lots of angry letters, and we're going to laugh at all of them when I play the clip and we talk about the context. I'm pretty sure that she was joking, right? I mean, she was joking, right? Was she joking? Anyways, we'll talk about that. Kayla Vanderfeld says that he wished that he had Hank Williams Jr. phone numbers. Oh, God, that's a good one, actually. Yeah, that would. Hank Williams Jr., that'd be a good one. Whose phone number would you like to have? I'd love to hear from you. Send us a text on whichever live stream you're watching us on: Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, Fire TV, Apple TV, Roku. You're watching us all over the world today. One listener is texting me this yesterday morning, actually, said they wanted to order some stuff from the 4th of July sale, but wondering if it will get to me before the 4th. I'm in Oregon. Ooh. I mean, I cannot guarantee that. It can, but I cannot guarantee. So if you're in the mood for 4th of July sale shopping, I'll tell you, you can get 20% off. Just remember, it's 20% off. And a lot of the items are cool. You can wear year round anyway. So check out the AP for Liberty Shop store anyway, and just go over there and get yourself a 20% discount. All the items 20% off in the 4th of July merchandise sale. So if you've been waiting to get some stuff, then do so. Get it over there now. But I can't promise you that it'll be there by the 4th of July because, well, It just things take some time. All right. And then at 7:30 today, I can't wait to talk about this story. When I saw this yesterday, I was like, oh, you got to know that the left is just like,
God!
they were so mad.
No, God, please,
They were
no!
so mad when
No!
they did this whole genealogy research study in the background of the US presidents, and they found that only one US president is sinless. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Well, only one US president from history can cast the first stone in regards to not being tied to a slave-holding family. Yes. And this president is still alive. This president will trigger you. This president, I guarantee you that the reason why Reuters did this study is so that they could probably find that this president had more ties to slavery than any president in U.S. history. Come to find out, this president is the only one that didn't have ties to slavery. And I promise you, and I know how these mainstream media organizations work. I've been there. Trust me. And I guarantee you that they found out what they did not want to find out. And there was this whole team of journalists in there, and they're looking at their editor, and their editor wants to kill the story. As soon as they found it out, they were like, "Oh God, oh no, 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 we can't print this story." But then all these journalists had done all this work, and they were all looking at him like, "Yo, you did not just have us do all of this background and research on the presidents, and then you're not going to print our story." And then they had to print it. They did not want to print the story, but they printed the story. And now we get to talk about it at 7:30, and we'll all laugh and and it'll be good. It'll be a good time. Don't you just love the Wake Up America show? It's so nice. But yeah, once they printed it, I'm sure the left saw it and was like, I need that for my sound bites here on my screen. You know what I really need is I need one of those you can see it right down. You see my little stream deck right here as I pulled it up on the camera over there. I need one of those sound bites that's the lady who's screaming, no. What's the liberal lady, stuff like that. I just need to find that sound bite where she's like, because all I really have right now is just the Michael Scott.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
That's all I have.
No! No!
All right, all right, all right. Maria Krabs says, "Hey, Steffi, my husband liked the shirt I asked you to make for him. I asked him to model. He said no on that and turned 3 shades of red." That is actually quite hilarious. Thanks for letting us know that, Maria. Maria Krabs. All right, what else we got on the show today? Oh, we do have guests. Judge Andrew Napolitano will be joining us at 8 o'clock to talk about the Supreme Court upholding the state court's power to prevent gerrymanders, as well as the Supreme Court striking down this idea of the independent states theory, which a lot of conservatives have been pushing, taking it to the Supreme Court of the question of whether or not states could set their own election laws to a certain extent. I'll be curious to see what Judge Napolitano thinks about that one. And of course, the only 3 justices that dissented in it were were the 2 conservatives and the 1 libertarian. I really, I kind of grit my teeth when conservatives are like, "No, Neil Gorsuch, very conservative and stuff." Well, yeah, whenever Justice Gorsuch does something that they like, then it's like, "Oh, you're a conservative, right?" But whenever he does something that they don't like, it's like, he's a libertarian. It's like, no, no, no. We'll keep him. We'll keep him the whole time. When you don't like him, we'll take him. When you do like him, we'll keep him. How about that? Justice Gorsuch, one of us, one of us, one of us, one of us. Gabagoo, gabagoo. All right, bring me the gabagool. All right. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Let us know if you think that there's a story that we might be missing today. Because you know what? I just don't have time to read everything in the entire world. I try to, but sometimes I've got to spend some time not just working on the stories and reading the news, but I've also got to get you some guests like Dudley Brown. He is the chief of the National Association of Gun Rights, and they're suing the ever loving out of the federal government 7 ways from Sunday. They're suing the feds, and I'd like to give us an update on how the court cases are going. What's going on with the bump stocks? There's this Naperville versus Illinois case that we've got to look at and hear about. What's the deal with that? Are they going to lose their ability to be able to buy AR-15s in Illinois? It's going to be an interesting challenge. And we'll hear from Dudley Brown about that today at 8:30. I'm excited to hear his case. The amicus curiae. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, I don't even remember what that song is. How do I know the words? All right, let's move on. Curly hair may have been the key to human brains growing so big. What's your excuse, Austin? I got straight hair. Curly hair may have been the key to why human brains grew so big. Scientists have found, I think this is interesting. This is a new study published by Penn State researchers that analyzed how human hair texture can help regulate body temperatures. Humans evolved, of course, in equatorial Africans. That's why we're all African Americans, where the sun, of course, often overhead the entire year, meaning that the scalp receives more levels of solar radiation. Hair texture may have been important in the early evolution of the human brain. Fascinating. By using wigs and a human shaped model that used electricity to mimic body heat, scientists analyzed how different hair types affected body temperature. So they studied that how much heat was lost in the body, and then they used lamps on the model's head to take the place of solar radiation, mimicking what it would be like if it was in equatorial Africa. And then they did the test with different hair types: straight, moderately curled, and then tightly curled. The researchers found that the tight curls kept the body cool the best out of all the hair types. They hypothesized that tightly curled scalp hair would provide some benefits, but the extent of the benefits was uncertain. Interesting. Larger brains may have developed under conditions because of this, because large brains are sensitive to heat and also generate a lot of heat. Too much heat can lead to dangerous consequences like heat strokes. That means that curly hair could have served as an adaptation for passive thermal regulation. Fascinating stuff. So, once humans developed larger brains, they could employ other behavioral and social strategies to cope with heat, potentially diminishing the relative advantage of curly hair. So, that could have led to a diverse distribution of hair textures worldwide. Since straight hair better retains heat, populations in colder environments may have experienced selective pressure for straight hair. So think about it. Why do people who have people from equatorial Africa have curlier hair, tighter curls? Well, it's a way to for their head to cool itself off naturally. And then, of course, as you go to the frigid north and you find my people, white people, we have straighter hair. And that's because there really isn't as much pressure from the sun to try and cool off our brains. And so, therefore, white people, straight hair, we got selective pressure. Evolution is an interesting thing, isn't it? It's no fun. I can't imagine what it must be like to just completely discount the theory of evolution. So many people did from my childhood. I was raised in the tradition, in the Fundy tradition, which rejects the theory of evolution. And so I really did get both sides of it, as I got older, because in school, of course, they teach the devil's theory of evolution. Um, and things just make a lot more sense when you sort of look at them as like adaptations over time, rather than everything was made exactly how it is today, and that's exactly how it was. But yeah, I kind of feel bad because, especially because then you also reject evolutionary psychology, which I think is really fascinating. And Camelia and I actually got into a discussion about this yesterday. If you missed it, I cut the clip and I posted it on my YouTube channel, where we were talking about the clash between the red pill community and the traditional conservative people online, where the trad cons, as we call them, have really been kind of like feeling angsty towards the red pill community, because so many of them reject traditional conservative values, right? These are guys who like to sleep around, that's that, right? And don't, they eschew marriage, et cetera, et cetera. But it's interesting because one of the things, the criticisms that I saw that traditional conservatives had been making of the red pill community, red pillars are, kind of anti-marriage guys, right? One of the big criticisms of them is that they push off marriage and that they use evolutionary psychology for dating strategy. So what does that mean? So evolutionary psychology is this idea that not only do our bodies evolve, but also our psychology evolves. So the reason why we behave the way we behave in our modern environment is largely due to evolutionary psychology. Is largely due to evolutionary pressure, which has caused us to behave the way that we behave. And now red pillars take this and they apply it to dating. And they take evolutionary psychology and they say, well, the reason why women want to date a man of a higher social status who has more resources than her is a dating it's a mating strategy in order to protect her young and to provide for her, et cetera, et cetera. And men want young beautiful women because this is the red pill, right? This is their view. This is not like scientific, but it's it's science based. And the idea that men want young beautiful women, right, is because they want a woman who is capable of bearing children. And that's why there is all of this psychology, this discussion about in the red pill community and traditional conservative community about dating strategy, mating strategy. And this is a fascinating subject that I find to be interesting. And I'm a big believer in myself personally, although it's based in science, but a lot of it hasn't really been tested. There are statistics and numbers to prove it, but prove certain things, but a lot of this stuff is really just kind of out there to discuss. You can text the show today with your thoughts at 573-319-1586. Gary Sign, either Gary or Jerry Sign, says, can you be red pilled without being considered far right? Well, it depends on who's considering it, right? So if you're a leftist, everybody who's a red pillar is on the far right to them, right? But I think you can. As a matter of fact, there are some like pro-abortion, leftist communists who I think are kind of part of the red pill community. I don't really get too much into the subculture of the streamers whole lot. Maybe I should, because they make more money than me and have much bigger audiences. People like Destiny and others, but I'll frequently see them on some of these podcasts. Excuse me, I'm trying not to be all 1970s guy here. See them on these podcasts, and they're arguing in favor of abortion. I mean, they're definitely not traditional conservatives. Many of these red pillars. So you could say, yeah, Gary Sign or Jerry Sign. Please let me know if I'm saying that right. Um, I would say that, in terms of evolutionary psychology, that can be applied whether you are a left winger or a right winger. So I don't think you have to be far right to be a red pill person. It's just really that you apply evolutionary psychology to dating, mating strategies, and that you sort of use I guess you sort of reject traditional conservative values, right? To an extent, because traditional conservative values are save yourself for marriage and don't sleep around and only be with one woman your whole life. And as you heard from Camille and I yesterday, obviously this removes me from the pool of traditional conservatives because I agree with the red pillars. Probably not a wise strategy to only sleep with one person as a man your entire life when you're 17, 18 years old, because you're going to probably want to cheat when you get older. And a lot of people do cheat, and they shouldn't. And you shouldn't cheat on on your wife. And so therefore you won't say, if you did sow your wild oats, then you're not going to be like, oh, I'm missing something my entire life. This is not a traditional conservative view, right? This is anathema to a lot of conservatives who would hear me and be like, oh my God, filthy degenerate. Well, you're the ones that are all getting divorced, and cheating on your wives and being hypocrites about it. So at least I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, wouldn't you really be the degenerate ones? If, of the 10 people who got married at 17 years old and never was with anybody else, congratulations to you. I give you the applause it's due. I just don't think that's realistic for most people. Okay, what do you think? Let me know. 573-319-1586 is the text line if you want to have your voice heard. Maybe you don't like what you're hearing today from the show. You can tell me what you think. Will Run Right joining us here. Nelson65 as well. Robbie Thurman and Kermode Bear over on Rumble. If you're watching us on Rumble today, click that like button and let us know that you like the show, and subscribe if it's your first time watching us here today, because we like to grow our audience over there on Rumble, and it's nice to see so many more people joining us there. All right, moving on from evolutionary psychology, curly hair, big brains, and all that stuff, let's talk. Okay, so this story, before I get to Roseanne Barr real briefly, this story made me laugh. This is a white guy who apparently got threatened by a black man on the playground, but this guy had such strong white guilt, right, that a black man brandished the knife against him, made death threats. The white guy called the cops. The police arrest the black man for terroristic threats, and the white guy starts to cry saying he didn't want him arrested. It's just the wildest thing you've ever seen. Talk about white guilt. Look at this. Listen.
He was arrested and charged with simple assault and terroristic threats. Following his arrest, he was transported to the DeKalb County Jail.
Let's go to the squad car, please.
Okay. Why? Why is it happening?
Why?
I'm being arrested?
Yes.
For what?
For what?
I'll be with you in just 1 second.
I just wanted to mix them up.
But still, I will need for you to fill out a statement for him.
I don't want him arrested. I just want him to leave us
I
alone.
know, but he had a weapon on him, and it was terrorist threats.
Brandishing is not a crime with a knife. Brandishing is only a crime for a gun.
Terroristic threats, though, sir.
Because he said die to me and had his knife out?
What? All that was done.
because he pulled his knife out and said die. Yeah, because he pulled his knife out and said die, white boy. Listen to this.
The threats, everything.
Let
me get a statement.
I thought you were going to arrest him. I wouldn't call. I just wanted to leave us alone.
If you thought that he was going to get arrested, you wouldn't have called the cops. What kind of I know. I know. I'm just watching too much Gavin McInnes these days. I want to curse on the show, but I know. You guys sometimes got kids in the house and you like to listen to the morning show because it's clean, but it's hard for me. All right, continue.
I understand, but we still have a job to do.
Now he's gonna think I'm doing this because I'm white and he's black, or he's homeless and I'm not. I don't want that.
But did he do what he did?
Yeah, but I don't want him thinking I did it because he's in whatever situation he's in. I just want him to leave us alone.
I doubt that. I'll be right back, okay?
What in the God, Grim? What is wrong with people? Didn't even stab me. Oh my God. All right, hold on. Let's hear it one more time. So listen to this white boy cry when he finds out that the man is going to be arrested. And here's the thing. It's not like he's a homeless guy, right? So it's not like he's going to know where you live or be able to track down where you live. You'll never see him again after this. They arrest him, most likely. Right? So what are you crying for, you little bitch?
All that was done.
He's crying because of white guilt.
Let me get a statement.
I thought you were going to arrest him. I wouldn't call. I just wanted to leave us alone.
I understand, but we still have a job to do.
Now he's gonna think I'm doing this because I'm white and he's black, or he's homeless and I'm not. I don't want that.
But did he do what he did?
Yeah, but I don't want him thinking I did it because he's in whatever situation he's in. I just want him to leave us alone.
I doubt that.
All right. Well, another sin for another white man, except not in this case. Only one U.S. president has no ancestral ties to slavery. Can you guess which one? Big brain time. When we get back, got that curly hair on your head? That's good. That means you got a big brain. Let's talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. I see we're holding strong with a good amount of people watching us today on the show. We're grateful to have you here. Welcome. If it's your first time joining us, make sure you click that subscribe button so that you can come back and join us on the show. And of course, if you're a regular and you haven't hit the like button yet, are you really a true freedom lover? You're not a real libertarian unless you click that like button. Glad to have you here on the Wake Up America show. Make sure that you text us too if you think that there's some news that we've missed. I like to read as much as I can, but sometimes there are things I know you want to talk about that I may not have covered. And you can send us in a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Got some fun news for you today. All current and former living U.S. presidents have had at least one ancestor who used to own slaves.
God! No! God, please, no! No! No!
With the exception of Donald Trump. Congratulations, Mr. President. I got my little Trumpy Buddha here. On Tuesday, Reuters released the genealogies of American political elite, data where it found that President Joe Biden and all of his predecessors still alive, all of them, have descended from ancestors who enslaved black people. I thought if you didn't vote for Joe Biden, then you're not black. Even Barack Obama, the country's first black president, is the descendant of a slave owner from his white mother's side of the family. This was not the result that Reuters was looking for, I promise you this. According to Reuters, the slaveholding ancestors of living U.S. presidents are George Bush, one direct ancestor, 6 generations removed, owned 25 slaves. Wow, that's pretty rich. Bill Clinton, one direct ancestor, 5 generations removed, owned 1 slave. I guess we got to give it to old Billy. Slick Willie. They only had 1 slave, so that's he's tied with Joe Biden for 1 slave. Jimmy Carter, one direct ancestor, 4 generations removed, owned 54 slaves. You son of a bitch. 54 slaves, Jimmy Carter. We've got to find Jimmy Carter and, well, I guess I can't say that. The Secret Service will come find me, won't they?
FBI, open up!
Okay, I'm just joking. Screw off. Barack Obama, his one direct ancestor owned 2 slaves. Wow, 2 slaves, I gotta say. And then Donald Trump with no
From now
slaves
on,
at all.
it's going to be America first, okay? America first.
I have to say, if we're going to use woke logic on this one, what does that mean? It means that Donald Trump is completely and utterly and entirely sinless. That means that all other U.S. presidents but Donald Trump have the black stain on his on their records. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586 with your thoughts about this story, because essentially the Wake Up America show. Hold on one second. I got to ban somebody over who's trying to take over the chat. There you go. Todd in Minnesota is messaging in saying, where's Judge Knapp? We're going to speak to Judge Napolitano this morning at 8 a.m. So don't forget to come back in 30 minutes if you need to go to get some food or something like that. But we'll speak to Judge Napolitano at 8 a.m. About some Supreme Court some Supreme Court issues. Among 536 members of the last sitting Congress, at least 100 descend from slaveholders. So a lot of America's elite descend from slaveholding people. Of that group, more than a quarter of the Senate, 28 members, can trace their families to at least 1 slaveholder. So, and the lawmakers, of course, in that Congress are Democrats and Republicans alike, who were had slaveholding ancestors. Republican senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, and James Lankford, and Democrats Elizabeth Warren. Turns out that she did Native Americans hold slaves? I guess they did, actually. So. Well, wait a minute. She wasn't Native American, was she? I think there were some Native American slaveholders, but I'm not sure. Tammy Duckworth, Jeannie Shaheen, and Maggie Hassan. So, and of course, every living former U.S. president except Donald Trump are descendant of slaveholders as well. 2 of the 9 sitting Supreme Court justices, Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, yes, also have direct ancestors who enslaved people, and the governors of 11 of the 50 states were descendants of slaveholders. That includes 8 chief executives of the 11 states that form the Confederate States of America, 2 that are seeking the Republican nomination for president, Asa Hutchinson, he's the former governor of Arkansas, and Doug Burgum of North Dakota. South Carolina, where there's a lot of familiar ties with the American political elite. Every member of the state's 9-person delegation in the last Congress has an ancestral link. Well, that would make sense. The state's 2 black members of Congress, Tim Scott and James Clyburn, have forebearers who were enslaved. Each of the 7 white lawmakers who served in the 117th Congress is a direct descendant of a slaveholder. So too is the state's Republican governor, South Carolina, Henry Master. Well, you would think that from South Carolina. So Reuters found that at least 8% of Democrats in the last Congress and 28% of Republicans have such ancestors. They must have loved finding that. They were not happy with Donald Trump not having any ancestral ties to slaves, but they probably were at least happy for this statistic that 28% of Republicans have such ancestors. Well, Republicans do tend to be more white, so that would make more sense. White people enslaved black people across northern states in early America, but by the eve of the Civil War, slavery was almost entirely a Southern enterprise. So, Henry Louis Gates Jr. He's a professor at Harvard University. He's the guy who hosts that popular television show Finding Your Roots on PBS. Which, remember when he found the roots of the lady who was like the communist African American lady who like her whole career was this blick. What the hell am I trying to say? Her whole career was this grift for African American studies, and then it turns out that her ancestors sailed on the Mayflower, and she's like, "No, no, how terrible! How my ancestors came over on the Mayflower? No." What was was the Mayflower the only ship? Man, I'm thinking of the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, where they had 3 ships. That was Christopher Columbus. Anyways, yeah. So, hello guys, good to see you. BZMieni is now following. Nice to see you. Good morning. We always love to see new names and faces. That's over on Twitch, and we've got a bunch of people over joining us on YouTube as well. Gary Sign, asking the real questions over on YouTube, says, can we blame people for their ancestors' past? No, we can't. But of course, that's what Reuters wants to do with this. They want to try and serve their sordid purposes by trying to tie a political person or political classes, families to slavery in order for them to try and play gotcha with them, right? They're not just trying to contribute to the sum of human knowledge here, right? They're basically, I would consider this political activism on the part of PBS and Reuters, right? It's not an effort to try and advance race relations here in the United States. What they're trying to do is they want to exacerbate racial tensions by doing this, right? Because they're serving their political agenda with this, right? So they start with the facts, and then of course they distort them as they please, right? So they say this is not another chapter in the blame game, right? Because the fact is we do not inherit guilt for our ancestors' actions. I mean, why can't I just cuss? I just say, no crap. Yeah, no crap. We don't inherit blame for our ancestors' actions. Let me ask you something, though. You, the listener, do you think for 1 second that if Donald Trump they had found that Donald Trump had some ancestral tie to slavery, let's say he had as many slaves as Jimmy Carter's family had, 52 slaves, 52 enslaved people from Jimmy Carter's family. Do you think that if it had been Donald Trump with 52 slaves, instead of Jimmy Carter, that the narrative would have been, oh, we do not inherit guilt for our ancestors' actions? Hell no, it wouldn't have been. It would have been the absolute opposite. It would have been used to finger point and blame game as another example of why Donald Trump is a horrible, evil racist. So I love this story because it goes against the left's narrative, and they try so hard to stoke the fears of racial hatred in this country and to stoke racism in this country because they are race. The left is deeply, deeply racist. Racism has always been an important part of the platform of the Democratic Party, and that is why you find so many Democrats like Jimmy Carter with 52 slaves. Now, does Jimmy Carter inherit that guilt? No, he shouldn't. But what happens when white people inherit guilt? They behave like the guy on the video that I showed you a little bit earlier when he cried because a police officer came to arrest the man who threatened his life, the soy boy. If you missed it, here's that clip.
Let me get a statement.
I thought you were going to arrest him. I wouldn't call. I just wanted to leave us alone.
I understand, but we still have a job to do.
Now he's gonna think I'm doing this because I'm white and he's black. or he's homeless and I'm not. I don't want that.
But did he do what he did?
Yeah, but I don't want him thinking I did it because he's in whatever situation he's in. I just want him to leave us alone.
I doubt that. I'll be right back, okay?
Jesus, dude, why are you crying? So sad. Ladies, what would you do if you saw your man doing that, crying like that? I'm just desperate to know. Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Ordinarily, I think men should be in touch with their feelings, but if you saw your man doing that and you decided to dump him after he cried because he didn't want the black man to think that he was racist for calling the cops after him, after he pulled a knife on him and said he was going to kill him, and your man starts crying because the police officer actually does what you called them to do. I mean, I'm dying to know what you would. Ladies, would you dump a man like that? I'd be curious. Katie556 says, the soy is strong with that beanie. Yes, it is. Hilarious. Kermode Bear says, it is the ultimate form of cancel culture to blame you for things people did 200 years ago. Totally lame. Totally agree. If you're watching us, one of the 40 people watching us over on Rumble right now, good morning. We've got 11 likes on Rumble. Let's change that. Can we get ourselves up to 20 likes over on Rumble? If half the people who are watching us on Rumble right now click that like button, we'll be on our way to spreading the message of economic freedom and personal liberty, which is what we're all about here on the Wake Up America show. All right, so I'm reading from the National Review here. They write that the tumult that followed George Floyd's murder and the push to purge vestigial racism from American institutions, which is the controversial premises that make up the assumptions in critical race theory and the rejection of those premises by conservatives, the perennial push by far-left legislators for paying monetary reparations to the descendants of slavery, and, of course, most saliently, the future of affirmative action college admissions, which the Supreme Court is expected to rule on before the end of June. Okay, that's a lot of really big words there and a long run-on sentence. Come on, National Review. So here's what they say, right? So the reason why Reuters is doing this, asserts this writer at the National Review, which I agree with, is for political reasons. And one of the major political reasons is because they really want to ensure that reparations go forward in California. As a matter of fact, I think they are going forward in California. Last I read, California yeah, here it is, one day ago. The Sacramento Bee. Let's see if I can actually pull these articles up. A lot of times these get blocked because of my ad blocking software. I use one of these tools to block ads. The California Reparations Task Force, good God, can you imagine a name like that, will publicly release their final legislation recommendations 9 a.m. tomorrow. So the task force has a 500-page initial interim report that relate to significant systemic discrimination that still negatively impacts African Americans, including racial terror, political disenfranchisement, and racism in the environment and infrastructure. So yeah, climate change is racist, infrastructure is racist, the KKK apparently still running wild here in the United States, and they're all being politically disenfranchised, meaning that they're not allowed to vote. 500-page report with 13 chapters. That's going forward tomorrow morning, the reparations proposal. So this push to tie America's political class to ancestral slavery, in my mind, is a political push to advance the cause of reparations. They want it to go forward in California, which they don't have the money for. They're going bankrupt anyway. There's no way they can afford it. Good God, can you imagine if California goes bankrupt because of that, and then they ask the feds for a bailout, and then the rest of the country steps in and starts paying California for their reparations? I mean, if you think that it can't happen, I mean, I'm telling you, it can. And if we don't do something about it, it will. But I am glad to see, of course, that Donald Trump was like the only living U.S. president who have no ties to slavery, just because I know that drives the left insane. All right. So Roseanne Barr, she says that there were no Jews who were killed in the Holocaust. I find that fascinating because, of course, she is a Jew. And as I was reading this article yesterday, I saw that the Jews for the preservation of Judaism, who are always offended, perpetually upset about absolutely everything, are writing about how terrible she is, how disgusting she is. She says that the that it never happened. The Holocaust, it never happened, says Roseanne Barr. And of course, Ronald Lauder, president of the World Jewish Congress, said Barr's comments were Nazism in its purest form. She says Roseanne Barr's open and grotesque Holocaust denial is Nazism in its purest form. Ah! Now, listen, I'm the first one to call out Nazis for being like terrible, awful Nazis. There are Nazis, and then there are Roseanne Barr. And is Roseanne Barr a Nazi? No, Roseanne Barr's not a Nazi. Let's hear what Roseanne Barr had to say in the full context of the clip.
No, you can't say,
that it wasn't.
You can't say that, like,
The
there
election was rigged or-
yeah,
right.
that's all a lie. The election was not rigged. 36 counties can give you 81 million votes.
Right.
That's a fact.
So it wasn't rigged.
Of course not.
Yeah.
36 counties have 81 million people in them. See? That's the truth. And don't you
And that's what really triggered him for sure, because you can tell. Now, do you think that she's being serious, or you think she's being facetious here, right? Are you the type of person who can't detect sarcasm? I think that's really what the left is, because they can't laugh, right? It's that NPC mentality. You know what I'm talking about? The non-player characters. You've seen the meme, right, with the gray faces and stuff, and they look at you, the blank stare, because they don't get comedy. I saw this Karen who got up on a comedy stage yesterday because she was offended by what the person was saying, and she literally had nothing to say other than she was offended. She's just sitting there staring. It's like they have to be the center of attention all the time, like this Jew for the Jewish Congress guy.
you dare say anything against it, or you'll be off YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all the other ones, because
By the way, she's speaking into the exact same microphone that I have right here, right now.
we have, there's such a thing as the truth and facts, and we have to stick to it. And,
It's scary.
and that is the truth. And nobody died in the Holocaust either.
No.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It should happen. 6 million Jews should die right now because they cause all the problems in the world, but it
Dude, what are you doing?
never happened. But it never happened.
Yeah.
Mandated.
I think you might be the only person, at least certainly my knowledge, who has at various times been canceled by both the left and the right. So when this
Two jihads.
Two jihads.
But in both these cases, these weren't minor situations with the national anthem and then with your tweet and getting the show taken from you. But did that kind of
And
take
the
you
dressing up like Hitler turned all the Jews against me.
Oh, well, that who cares? Because if they can't
like
understand
it.
that
Yeah,
joke, then they're
do
not
it.
really Jews to begin with. I mean, in my opinion, because every Jew I know has a bunch of Holocaust jokes at the back pocket. And I could tell you that number 6 million, but we know that's a lie.
It's a joke. It's a joke. And if people who aren't laughing about this must not be real Jews. I agree with Michael Malice. As a husband to a Jewish wife.
Was there this kind of
I like your line about, all these people that say the Holocaust didn't happen, but it should.
Well, that was in my book, The New Right, when I was talking.
The Holocaust didn't happen, but it should. How can these people not laugh? How can you not laugh at this?
To
Come
like
on.
these neo-Nazis, and I was at Charlottesville, and I'd never met Holocaust deniers before. And you've got the dumb ones and you've got the smarter ones, and the smarter ones are like, yeah, it happened, but the numbers are exaggerated. I'm like, wait, you're saying it was only hundreds of thousands of people and you're just fine with this? Like, that does not seem to be much of a good stance to.
No, I mean, it's funny because that is kind of funny if you think about it. Like the more erudite, well-spoken Nazis will be like, yeah, no, it happened, but it wasn't 6 million. It's like, okay, well, should it have been more? Man, you know what I'm talking about here? For God's sakes, these people are insane. They're out of their mind. And may I remind you that they do not have a joke to tell. So a comedian is telling jokes. The horror, says Barney Styles. Exactly. Can we all laugh? Roseanne. Maria Krabs says, a Jewish rabbi got me to go to a Baptist church to start my conversation. Love Jews, she says. Very funny. Norm Macdonald got his break because of her. I didn't know that. I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan, or at least I was when he was still alive. But Norm Macdonald didn't die. Norm Macdonald didn't die, but he should. I think Roseanne is funny, but everybody's attacking her now. The Jews for the Jewish Congress are attacking her. But Roseanne Barr's son apparently had to come out and make a statement. He says, "We're embarrassed that people are stupid enough to not recognize Roseanne as being sarcastic." He says, "We think it's funny. People are so stupid. Let's stop doing this clickbait. You know what? We need to focus on big problems in America instead of focusing on out of context clips." So Thea Vaughn, actually, the comedian that she was on with, said same thing, that she was just joking. But according to Salon, they're attacking Roseanne Barr got canceled. Remember, she got canceled from her show because she compared Valerie Jarrett, that's President Barack Obama's advisor at the time. She compared Valerie Jarrett to the offspring of the Muslim Brotherhood and the Planet of the Apes. See, there's only two groups that you're not allowed to make fun of in the United States, if you're of a different race. Now, if you are black or you are Jewish, which is funny because Roseanne Barr is Jewish, but you're only allowed to make fun of blacks or Jews if you are a black or are a Jew, in which case, if you are a right-wing Jew or if you are not a leftist Jew, we'll just say, because I don't think Roseanne Barr is really like right wing, if you will, because I actually think she's kind of like a Bernie Sanders type. So maybe she's a left libertarian, if you will, which they pal around with communists all the time. But you're only allowed to make those jokes if you're a leftist black or a leftist Jew. Then you can make jokes like that about Valerie Jarrett and things like that if you're a leftist. But now if a right wing black, like if Larry Elder was on his radio show and made a joke about Valerie Jarrett like that, comparing her to Planet of the Apes, he would have been canceled, right? And there probably would have been a lot of Republicans who would have thrown him under the bus as well, because as we know, and as Michael Malice was mentioning there are a lot of right-wingers who engage in cancel culture too. As a matter of fact, let's back that up just a moment and re-listen to that discussion with Michael Malice, because I actually think there's a really important point there that
might
he's
be the
making.
only person, at least certainly my knowledge, who has at various times been canceled by both the left and the right. So when this
two jihads.
But in both these cases, these weren't minor situations with the national anthem and then with your tweet and getting the show taken from you. But did that kind of
and
take
the
you
dressing
back?
up like Hitler turned all the Jews against me?
Oh, well, that who cares? Because if they can't understand that joke, then they're not really Jews to begin with. I mean, in my opinion, because every Jew I know has a bunch of Holocaust jokes at the back pocket. And if I could tell you that number 6 million, but we know that's a lie. Was there this kind of?
I like your line about, all these people that say the Holocaust didn't happen, but it should.
Well, that was in my book, The New Right, when I was talking to like these neo-Nazis, and I was at Charlottesville, and I'd never met Holocaust deniers before. And you've got the dumb ones and you've got the smarter ones. And the smarter ones are like, yeah, it happened, but the numbers are exaggerated. I'm like, wait, you're saying it was only hundreds of thousands of people and you're just fine with this? Like, that does not seem to be much of a good stance to plant your flag.
I think that if you're a viewer of the Wake Up America show, you probably do have a good sense of humor. Why don't you visit my shop, ap4libertyshop.com, during the commercial break, because I got to go get Judge Napolitano. I got some questions to ask him about some upcoming Supreme Court decisions that are made, some Supreme Court decisions that have been made, and some that are yet to be made. And I've got to go take a quick little break because I got to go pee. It happens. I'm a human being, right? I urinate. Actually, I don't pee. It's all just magical glitter. I'm a unicorn, baby. Visit ap4libertyshop.com during the commercial break. Go check out that 4th of July collection. 20% off from now until the 4th of July. Now, I cannot promise you that the 4th of July stuff will get there, but a lot of the stuff is cool. You can wear it all year anyway, like our Teddy Schwoelzevelt tank top and things like that. So why don't you go check them out right now during the break. Get yourself some awesome merch. Throw some items in the cart, and then when you get to the checkout portion there, you can see how much money you're going to save. And it's a lot. Feel but cleaning me out. Why you got to make me pull? Visit ap4libertyshop.com. We'll be back with Judge Napolitano during the break on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1. You can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2. Most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3. You're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell! This commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson, the host of the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here. If you've been enjoying the content that you've been watching so far this morning, don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel. It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. It's time to put on your thinking caps. We're about to go big brain time. My next guest is a leading light in the fight for liberty here in the United States and around the world. He frequently gives lectures, not just to colleges and to conferences here in the United States, but he recently traveled overseas to teach people about the law. If more people listen to my next guest, especially his podcast, Judging Freedom, which you can download on any of your mobile devices, the world would be a much better place. Joining us now is the man, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Good morning, Judge. Nice to see you today.
A very generous introduction. Very generous.
Thank you very much.
Kind.
Well, I know you so well, Judge. I don't even have to write it down. I'm so grateful to.
We do know each other well. Yes, one of the joys of our lives is knowing each other.
Absolutely, Judge. One of my greatest inspirations. The Supreme Court refused to allow the state legislatures to take what I believe to be their lawful authority in handling their own elections back. According to many conservatives and many libertarians as well, the idea that these independent state legislatures should have authority in setting certain rules for their elections seems to me to be a solid theory. And as a matter of fact, 3 of the Supreme Court justices who dissented in this case agree with them. Gorsuch, Alito, and Clarence Thomas dissented with the majority in this one. Can you help our listeners understand a little bit more about this legal theory that the Supreme Court rejected?
Sure. So the Constitution says that the manner of choosing presidential electors, remember, we don't vote directly for the presidential candidate in America. We vote for electors pledged to the candidate. But the Constitution says the manner of choosing presidential electors shall be determined by the state legislature. Chief Justice Rehnquist in Bush versus Gore interpreted that to mean that the legislature could do away with a vote for the president in its state if it wanted to, and choose the electors itself. And the Constitution is open-ended on the authority it gives the legislature. So the legislature of North Carolina began to move in this direction, and the Supreme Court of North Carolina invalidated it. And so a member of the North Carolina legislature challenged this in federal court, and that challenge reached the Supreme Court. By the time that challenge reached the Supreme Court, the makeup, the personnel on the North Carolina Supreme Court had changed, and the new North Carolina Supreme Court reversed the old North Carolina Supreme Court, unleashing the North Carolina legislature to do its thing. So there no longer was any adversity. There no longer was any case or controversy. That's what Justice Thomas wrote in his dissent. The Supreme Court doesn't set policy. The Supreme Court decides cases or controversies. And where there's no case or controversy, there's nothing for the Supreme Court to decide. The majority said, okay, we get it, but this is an issue that's going to keep coming back to us, so we're going to decide it once and for all. So the majority said, even though the Constitution doesn't say this, it really means that the state Supreme Court of a given state can review whatever the state legislature is doing when it affects federal elections. Justices Thomas, as you say, Alito, and Gorsuch dissented and said, wait a minute, the Constitution says the state legislature. It doesn't say the state legislature subject to the state Supreme Court. So the Rehnquist view, the Thomas view, the Gorsuch view, the Alito view, the Austin Peterson view, the Napolitano view, that the Constitution means what it says and only what it says, is not the law of the land. The law of the land is what the Supreme Court wrote yesterday, which is, of course, there's judicial review. They just didn't know about it at the time they wrote the Constitution.
So such an interesting theory, and one that I guess in order for it to go forward at this point, it would now take an act of legislation from the Congress, because the Supreme Court has struck it down.
Well, it will probably take a constitutional amendment. It would be even more than that. The Congress could purport to interpret the Constitution, but the Supreme Court would invalidate that. The Congress is not in the business of interpreting the Constitution. The only way to overrule a Supreme Court opinion is either when the facts change and the opinion is no longer relevant, or with a constitutional amendment clarifying that that clause of the Constitution, called the Elections Clause, means what it says, that the state legislature can do whatever it wants. And if the people say, well, wait a minute, what about our right to vote? Well, then you vote the legislature that took your right to vote away. You vote them out of office. You write your own rules. One of the checks on Leviathan, the federal Leviathan, was that the states would determine how people acquired their federal office. And the more hoops through which the states made people jump in order to get into federal office, the more checks there would be on big government. But it hasn't turned out that way, because the first legislature to try and do this was North Carolina. And now they can't do it because of this Supreme Court opinion. So under the independent legislature theory, a legislature could say, we're not going to have an election between Biden and Trump in this state. The legislature will decide what electors to send to the Electoral College. And under that theory, that would be lawful. Now, the liberals and even the non-liberals, the populists would go crazy. How can the legislature take away our right to vote for president? Well, there is no right to vote for president in the United States. There's a right for the state legislature to grant the privilege of voting for president or to retain that power to itself. That's what was invalidated yesterday, unless a state Supreme Court goes along with it. So it's not necessarily dead. I mean, Florida, for example, where the legislature is more than 2/3 conservative Republicans, could very well say, Ron DeSantis gets Florida's electoral votes, and the Supreme Court of Florida, majority of which has been appointed by DeSantis, could say, okay. There's nothing the U.S. Supreme Court could do about that. Nothing.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. It's nice to see a nice big audience here with us today. We're grateful to have you here. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. The Wake Up America show is all about economic freedom and personal liberty, which is why I bring guests like Judge Andrew Napolitano here on my show. He also has a terrific and wildly successful show called Judging Freedom, which you can download on any of your podcasts. He's also got a weekly column that appears at judgenap.com every Thursday. And we're going to get to his column here in just a moment. Once we get off the Supreme Court topic, Judge, the Supreme Court is about to rule in a sort of end-all be-all fashion on whether or not affirmative action is constitutional?
Yes. And a lot of us are waiting this. It's funny you should say be-all, end-all, because there are 3 cases involving the University of Texas making decisions based on gender in admissions. And the University of Texas, of course, the public school owned by the state of Texas, and the court has been all over the place. They can, they can't, they can do this, but only if they do that. So the case before the Supreme Court today, well, it'll be today, tomorrow, or Friday. It's got to be this week. Involves 2 universities, University of North Carolina, again, North Carolina, which is owned by the state, and Harvard University, which of course is privately owned, but which receives between $80 and $100 million a year in federal dollars, in return for which it agrees to abide by the Bill of Rights. So the question is, can a state school discriminate on the basis of race? The answer should clearly be no, but these University of Texas Supreme Court opinions allowed the University of Texas to do it, as long as they jump through some hoops. Can a private school that agrees in return for federal dollars to be bound by the same constitutional provisions that bind the federal government discriminate on the basis of race? The answer should be no. I think the answer is going to be no. I think the court is going to get rid of affirmative action by governments or by private entities that accept money from the government once and for all. It'll be a question. The only issue will be, how broad will this be? Will they limit it just to race involving universities, or will they just do the right thing and say the whole purpose of the 14th Amendment is to remove race from the armament of the government. If Harvard doesn't want to be burdened by this, don't take the federal dollars. But if you take the federal dollars, they come with federal strings. Now, this doesn't apply in every state. As an example, Princeton University in New Jersey receives approximately the same amount of money as Harvard. But the New Jersey legislature has enacted legislation that imposes on Princeton the requirements of the Bill of Rights. So Princeton already is barred by New Jersey law from discriminating on the basis of race. You would think Massachusetts, which we all think is the most liberal state in the union, would do the same to Harvard. It hasn't. So the most liberal, over-regulated, overtaxed state in the union is the one in which I am seated at the moment, New Jersey. But the vast majority of the country does not have this New Jersey-like law. So if the Supreme Court invalidates affirmative action in these two cases, Harvard and University of North Carolina, it could have broad, sweeping, everyday effect on the daily lives of many Americans.
Judge, this could be massive. I mean, affirmative action has been a thorn in the side of libertarians and conservatives for decades now.
Yes, it has. No question about it. I think this court is prepared to do the right thing. Look, I could be wrong. Justice, I don't want to get personal about this, but Justice Kavanaugh has been a wild card. You almost can't predict which way he's going to go. He's certainly not a libertarian. He's more a George Bush style Republican. And Justice Barrett has shown those tendencies as well. But I think in this case, it's going to be 6-3 or 5-4 invalidating the use of race. You know what's crazy is the plaintiffs in these cases are Asians. Now, I don't want to sound stereotypical, but typically some of the brightest students imaginable, alleging that there's a quota on Asians to enter Harvard and North Carolina. One of the justices of the Supreme Court, until she became a justice, sat on the Harvard Board of Overseers, which is their board of trustees. That's Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. So I don't even know if she's going to participate in the case. She resigned from the Harvard board when she was confirmed to the court.
Judge, in your opinion, your personal opinion, do you believe, and this is what I believe, but do you believe that the purpose of affirmative action is to discriminate solely in favor of one race in this country?
Well, it depends who you ask. I mean, some people, the most benign argument for it is that its purpose is to balance an imbalance, to help a class of people who have been suppressed culturally. But because it interferes with the free choices of private persons, and because it uses as a means of interference an aspect of humanity expressly prohibited by the 14th Amendment, it is clearly immoral because it interferes with free choice, and unconstitutional because it's based on race. Now, if Harvard wants voluntarily to give up its freedom of choice, that's Harvard's business. It can't make itself a slave, but it can agree to abide by certain regulations in order to take federal dollars. But Harvard is richer than the federal government if you balance federal debt against federal assets. They don't need the $100 million from the feds, but they apparently want it. They want it so badly that they're willing to wage this litigation over it.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. We're grateful to have you here. My guest currently is Judge Andrew Napolitano, who's joining us now. He joins us every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central here on the show. So if you like our conversations and you want to hear him again, make sure that you click that subscribe button on whichever channel that you're watching us on. We are on dozens of networks today: Rumble, YouTube, Fire TV, Apple, and pretty much everywhere you can get. So make sure that you subscribe on whichever channel you're watching us on so that you can come back and watch us again. We've got a nice big audience for the judge today, which I'm very grateful for. He deserves it. Of course, he's got a much bigger audience on his own show because he is a humongous celebrity. If I'm on the D list of celebrities, then you got Judge way up there at the very top. He's A-list in my eyes for sure. Judge, your column, judgenap.com, intrigues me. Every week I learn something new. And in the preview that your assistant sent me this week for your column, where you discuss the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, a discussion in which you have certainly been one of the loudest voices on in this discussion. Tell me, is it true, Judge, that American soldiers are fighting Russian soldiers in this conflict?
Yes, it is true. There is American military equipment in Ukraine operated remotely by American personnel in Poland. So our American boys pulling a trigger, so to speak, it's not actually a trigger, it's a computer board. Our American soldiers doing the equivalent of pulling a trigger on equipment that sends American manufactured projectiles aimed at Russian soldiers? Answer, yes. Are American troops actually on the ground in Ukraine? Yes. American special forces are there out of uniform. It's very dangerous and very risky. Because they're out of uniform, the government claims it can deny that there are boots on the ground. I'm sure they're wearing boots, but the phrase boots on the ground typically connotes in uniform with battle gear and offensive weaponry in hand. Because they're out of uniform, they're not protected by the Geneva Conventions. And if captured, can be executed summarily as spies. All of this so that Joe Biden can argue, I don't have troops on the ground. Has the Congress authorized troops on the ground? Of course not. Has Congress declared war on Russia? Of course not. Can Congress declare war on Russia? Absolutely not, because the treaties to which we're a party require that Russia pose a serious and imminent military threat to the United States for us to declare war on Russia, or to a country with which we have a joint defense treaty, and we don't have such a treaty with Ukraine. Instead, Congress gives the president a blank check. There's 113 billion, spend it however you want. And it's silent about whether or not spending it can include sending American boys over there. This is just the way Vietnam started, until LBJ and his military made up the Gulf of Tonkin. Oh, what the hell's the Gulf of Tonkin? I don't know. Some American ship was sunk. That must have been by the North Vietnamese. Let's go bomb Hanoi. Turned out there was no incident in the Gulf of Tonkin. We didn't know this until 50,000 American boys came home in body bags. Oh, those weapons of mass destruction that Saddam Hussein has. Did George Bush ever find them?
Now, wait a minute. On that bomb Hanoi topic, wasn't there a certain young man who went to Princeton who wore a shirt at the time that said bomb Hanoi?
And had a crew cut. Yes. That was then, and this is now.
You gotta remember these things, Judge. I remember everything about you. If you ever ask anyone to write a biography about you, I think that I would be the first person you should contact, because I'll remember everything.
Why do you have to advertise my flaws?
Oh, Judge, please. Trust me, I've got plenty of flaws myself. We all do. But I think people knowing that you're human, and honestly, there's something about the converted that really are the best messengers, if you will. People who come over to a side are usually lauded. Whenever someone leaves the left, for example, they become a darling of the right, or vice versa, for example.
There's an old phrase, I know this doesn't pertain to you, but it does pertain to a lot of people. Converts make the best Catholics. I mean, It is something about the converted. You're right.
Right. They're
none so zealous. I was a right-wing Republican, bomb Hanoi into the Stone Age in those days. You can imagine how popular I was on the Princeton campus. There was a draft then. I mean, people thought I was nuts.
Oh, Judge, can I ask you about politics, Judge? I've got a few more minutes before I've got to go. I'm speaking to someone from the National Association of Gun Rights here in about 10 minutes. But I'd like to ask you about politics. Judge, I have seen many of our libertarian friends expressing admiration in the presidential campaign of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., And it's been interesting to see his change of speaking of changing, he used to be very anti-gun. He used to say that people who didn't believe in climate change should be jailed. But now that he's running for president, he seems to be trying to go for the libertarian vote. He's walked back some of his statements on guns, and he's toned down his climate change rhetoric and said some things that have got a lot of libertarians who are following him and liking what he has to say. I am very skeptical of people who are political chameleons once they run, if they change their stripes once they run for office. But a lot of our libertarian friends are on board his campaign. Many are leaving the Libertarian Party to go and volunteer for his campaign. He sort of positioned himself as an anti-establishment candidate, which I think, we viscerally, that appeals to us viscerally, right? Because of how much we have disdain for the political establishment here in the United States. But tell me, do you like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and are you taken in with him as many libertarians are? I say taken in, but I mean, are you taken with him as so many others are?
I do like him. I'm very curious about him, and I follow everything that he says. He does say a lot of things with which I disagree, with which I agree, and I am sure he will say things with which I disagree. I mean, he's a Democrat. He's probably a big government type person, but on war and peace, on control of your own body, on civil liberties, on the national security state, he is very, very appealing to libertarians. Where he is on taxes and the power of the federal government, I suspect he's on the other side of the aisle. I mean, if he is the Democratic nominee, he'd be far more libertarian than any of the Republicans running. There's no question about that. It's almost inconceivable to me that Democrats would nominate him, although he's up to 26%, and they haven't even started the campaign yet because, Joe keeps falling on imaginary sandbags and manifesting his age and even mental instability. Unfortunately, waiting in the wings is someone who will make Joe Biden seem like Barry Goldwater, and that's Gavin Newsom. He's the darling. How do you like that comparison? He's the darling of the Democrats should Joe fall.
Well, here's a provocative question then for you, Judge. Knowing what Donald Trump did for tax cuts, right? He did spend a lot, but he did cut taxes, which, just like Milton Friedman said, I'm in favor of cutting taxes anytime for whatever reason. I agree with Uncle Milty on that. So Donald Trump gave us some tax cuts. He did cut some regulations. He did pass the First Step Act in regards to criminal justice reform. He did some things on bump stocks and guns, but a lot of Republicans have done that as well. And then he did some authoritarian things. Robert F. Kennedy, he's said some libertarian things and he said some not libertarian things. Who is more libertarian, Donald Trump or Robert F. Kennedy?
Oh, I think Robert F. Kennedy, it's not even a close call. I mean, he wants to get rid of the CIA. Trump beefed up the CIA. Robert F. Kennedy's against torture. Trump is in favor of torture. Trump paid the states to lock us down during COVID. Robert F. Kennedy is the champion of individual liberty during COVID and denying the power of the government to lock us down. It's not even a close call.
Judge,
no one's ever forced me to make that decision, that choice, by the way, but for you and for your audience, I'm happy to do it.
Oh, that's why we love the show, because we have so much fun here, Judge. I'm going to clip that. I hope you don't mind and play that out a little bit later, because I think it's going to be very...
Listen, if Robert F. Kennedy is having a huge rally in Los Angeles very soon, if they invite me to introduce him at that rally at my own expense, I will fly there and do so.
Wow. Oh, Judge, dang. That's a big statement. I'm definitely clipping that and posting that out later. I think that will definitely go viral. Judge Napolitano, give us a sneak preview of what you've got coming on your hit show, Judging Freedom.
I have two ex-CIA guys that are going to go toe-to-toe. Phil Giraldi, who believes, as we do, that the CIA is inherently dangerous and feeds us all kinds of lies every day. and Jack Devine, who thinks it's the College of Cardinals, and Vladimir Putin is Satan. They're going to go toe to toe.
You can download Judging Freedom on anywhere that you get your podcasts, and of course, watch it on YouTube as well. My moderators, Judge, are on the ball, and they will definitely drop the link to that over on our YouTube channel for all of the audience who are watching us today, which we have a nice big audience, and we're grateful to have for such a great big guest. Judge Napolitano, we appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll see next week.
An early happy Independence Day.
And you as
when
well,
we
sir.
seceded from Great Britain. It was the last moral war we fought.
God bless the American founding fathers, and God bless you, our modern founder. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you like Judge Napolitano? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Well, if you like the Judge, you're going to love my next guest, Dudley Brown from the National... slow down, Austin. Relax. The National Association for Gun Rights. They are suing the ever-loving out of the feds for your gun rights. We'll be back with more. Don't you dare leave. I see a bunch of people over at Rumble right now. Hang out, chat. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com. Here's Elon Musk.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America Show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Thanks so much for tuning into the program. What did you think of that interview with Judge Napolitano? Wasn't that awesome? You really just don't get better content in the morning than the Wake Up America show. So if it's your first time watching us today, why don't you click that subscribe button on whichever of the dozen channels that we're streaming on that you're watching us on. Rumble, Fire TV, Roku, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, basically everywhere in the world that will have us. And why do I do that? Because of social media censorship. And the best way to fight social media censorship is click that like button. Help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. And one of my favorite personal liberties is the right to own a gun. No, I have never, ever used my gun to harm someone. I've had a gun my whole life. I have lots of guns, scary guns, cute guns, big guns, small guns, and never once have I ever had to use a gun to harm anyone. Well, it is your right to carry a gun in this country. And I don't even say it's because of the Second Amendment. I think it's your ultimate individual right as a human being born on this planet. But the fight for gun rights and to defend ourselves continues from now until forever. We're always just one generation away from it being extinct. How can we fight back, though? Well, we're going to need institutions to counter the big government institutions. Voluntary institutions for all the anarchists who are watching us here today. I see you fighting in the comments. My next guest is one of the men who is on the front lines fighting for your Second Amendment rights from the National Association for Gun Rights. His first time on the show, Dudley Brown. Good morning, Dudley. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Hey, good morning, Austin. Been a follower of yours for a while and excited to be on.
Glad to have you, Dudley, especially because there are so many milquetoast gun organizations out there. It's nice to speak to somebody from one no-compromise gun group like the National Association for Gun Rights. We're so glad to have people like you out there who are not just saying, oh, we need to do a little changes here and there. Oh, no, that shall not be infringed means what it means. And it's nice to see that you're at the head of so many lawsuits fighting to bring back our rights. Which ones right now have you got in the fire that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, Austin, I've been a gun lobbyist now for 30 years coming this fall. And I usually say the courts are not areas we're really going to win. Well, that changed last summer with the Bruin decision. We now have a big sledgehammer to swing around, and that's what we're doing. I tell people, if you're going to watch a couple of cases, the Benitez ruling that we're waiting on out of California is going to be huge, we think, but that's just a guess. And we weren't really deeply involved in that. However, the cases we have in Naperville, Illinois, against the city of Naperville and the state of Illinois for their assault weapons ban, as well as here where I'm standing right now in Colorado against the town of Superior. Those are the two big ones where we see that we can make a big difference, where we have the options. The interesting part is tomorrow, Austin, is a hearing in the Naperville case. In fact, where the consolidated cases, the big group of cases will be speaking before a federal judge who is almost certain to rule against us, but they have to put on the show.
What is this Naperville case?
So the city of Naperville decided to shut down the one gun shop they had in the city, in this Chicago suburb, and with broad restrictions on magazine capacity and so-called assault weapons. Well, Law Weapons there, and our plaintiff Robert Beavis is a good guy who just has a business, and in fact, he was asked to move his shop from another neighboring municipality into Naperville. Then the city council shut him down. They had a woke city council, and they passed this ordinance. Now, there's no way this ordinance can stand. It bans an entire class of firearms, which the Bruin decision said you really can't do unless you can prove that the text, history, and tradition of the Second Amendment support that. In the past, Austin, it was very easy for municipalities and states to argue that their gun control was valid because they did this balancing test. The courts all balanced the Second Amendment. They listened to the arguments about the Second Amendment, and then they threw them out, literally cast them out and ignored them. And then they discussed the balancing interest of the local law enforcement for public safety and this and this and this. Just utter garbage. And either the Second Amendment means what it says or it doesn't, or we might as well just burn it. And the Bruin decision said, no, Clarence Thomas wrote it very specifically. The Second Amendment was actually already balanced. When they wrote the Bill of Rights, they already did the balancing test. And that's why they wrote it. And so if you can prove that those gun controls have some historical context, and for instance, in the Founding Fathers era, that they enacted, let's say, a ban on an entire class of firearms because they were assault weapons or they were used by the military at the time, then you can ban them, which of course they can't. I mean, the Brown Bess was what almost every mainline army carried during the Revolutionary War. So did every farmer. And in fact, some states actually required able-bodied males to own one. They required it by law. So, and that was the assault weapon of the time, or what I'd like to call a battle rifle, which is kind of what I've got a few of them back here.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to Dudley Brown of the National Association for Gun Rights about litigation that they are currently involved in to fight for your rights to self-defense. Now, Dudley, one of the big cases that people have been following is the situation surrounding people who own pistol braces for their AR-15 pistols. Now, I saw that the Senate declined to move forward with a bill that the House had passed. The Republican-controlled House had passed legislation that would have protected pistol brace owners. But of course, that stalled out in the Senate. And, of course, Joe Biden would have used his veto pen most likely if that had gone through. However, we had heard that there was a temporary injunction for people who were parts of gun right groups, such as your own. What's the status of that right now?
Well, it's most likely to be quite temporary, but we filed in Texas. We've not had a hearing yet on that for emergency relief. But essentially, they said if you're a member of an organization who is filing these suits, that you would be exempt from that regulation for now. We know that's a temporary fix. We've got to fight it out in court. But for many people who, when the deadline was reached in a few weeks ago, there were automatic felons. And I know I went and took my pistol brace rifles and separated the uppers from the lower and put them in a different location. Or put 16-inch barrels on your lower just to comply with federal law. I don't like it. I think it's a gross overstep. But let's be honest about this, Austin. Why did this all happen? One reason: Donald Trump. Donald Trump showed them how to do this. He agreed with the National Rifle Association. Those two went and enabled the bump stock ban, which I'm not a bump stock fan. I mean, two of the machine guns right here behind me are legal fully automatic weapons. I own fully automatic weapons, and I would never buy a bump stock. I think they're kind of lame, but I don't want to ban them. And Donald Trump did. And that was the recipe that then Biden administration figured, oh, well, you can do it. We can use the same recipe. And that's what they did.
Well, I've always said, Dudley, that Democrats talk a big game about gun control, but Republicans are really the ones who get it across the finish
Unfortunately, you're correct. It's usually that's where we get the gun control, and it's usually at the hands of with the NRA clapping and saying, "Oh, that's the best deal we're going to get." If I had a nickel for every time I heard that in my 30 years of being a gun lobbyist. We never would have thunk that would have happened. NRA lobbyists say that all the time. We never thought Harry Reid would have done what he did. We called him a champion of the Second Amendment. We never thought that he would back the Toomey Mansion deal in 2013. You know what? Sorry, I just don't buy that. You can't work in politics for 10 minutes even and not understand how you're going to get screwed in the deal. One of my rules, Austin, in politics is don't lie to people. Gun owners have had smoke blown up their skirt for decades. I mean, we sit in the back of the bus. We never thought about walking to the front. And I'm tired of that crap. Everybody walk to the front of the bus and say, I'm not doing that anymore. And there's ways to do it. Lawsuits, candidates, hold them accountable. I don't give two rats' asses who's running against the Republican. Never vote for people who vote to restrict your rights. I don't care who they're running against. I don't care what the race is. People will say, oh, gee, well, that just means you'll get the Democrat elected. Too freaking bad. I'm not voting for people who screw us, especially who are supposed to be on our side, who claim to be.
Well, what do you think about Robert Kennedy Jr.?
I mean, obviously, I love a lot of what he says. I mean, and I love the fact that he's throwing the Democrats for a loop. I don't know where he gains traction in the Democrat Party on the shutdowns and Fauci and the whole COVID issue. I have no idea how that's going to work for them. But I love, from what I've heard, I know we had a staffer who was at I can't remember what, it was like a podcast interview event with him, and asked him about red flag laws. And he definitely ran from those, which that's not going to gain him votes in the Democrat Party. But I'm not sure that guy's running really for the Democrat nomination.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. The person I'm speaking to right now is Dudley Brown from the National Association of Gun Rights, and we're talking to him a little bit about court cases and gun rights. I'd like to, and apparently Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But Dudley, I'd like to ask you about the gun market related to COVID-19, because when the pandemic hit, it wasn't just 50-year-old white guys who were going out and buying guns. Minorities and women were buying guns, many of them for the first time, becoming first-time gun owners. I mean, that should be helping us along in regards to this fight for gun rights, shouldn't it?
You'd think. I remember I went over to some local gun shops, and I actually took pictures of Priuses with Bernie stickers parked at the gun shop buying pistols and AR-15s, and they were worried for all kinds of reasons. And the summer of violence, of course, drove a lot of people to at least buy firearms. But I'm going to tell you this, and this is definitely contrary to the standard libertarian thought of education is the key. That doesn't do shit for us. The battle for gun rights has nothing to do with how many guns people own or whether they even own them. We find all the time that people who own guns support restrictions. In fact, sometimes the restrictions on themselves. Look at the kids marching down in Florida during the Parkland, right after the Parkland events, and David Hogg and all that crowd. They did it here in our state capitol this year, marching, demanding that government take their rights. In fact, in one case, it was students demanding that they raise the minimum age to buy an AR-15.
Take our rights.
Please take our rights. I mean, they are the opposite of Martin Luther King Jr., right? I mean, it's mind-boggling. But no, I don't. I love it. I love the fact there are more gun owners, and it went to a non-traditional gun-owning world. Homosexuals, let's just say non-camo clad rednecks. Okay, I'll just say it. And you're a non-traditional gun owner, and it was a lot of women, it was a lot of minorities, but it didn't change how they voted, Austin. And frankly, I run into people all the time who own tons of guns, and when you tell them, "Hey, I need you involved in the fight to save your rights," they say, "Oh, I'm involved. I just bought 3 guns yesterday." Like, hello? Did we not speak the same language here? That has nothing to do with the other. I mean, obviously, I'm a gun person. I'm doing this podcast from our private range, and about ready to shoot a bunch of YouTube videos and shoot some machine guns and We got a giveaway gun here that we're going to test and put on video, a Scar 20S. You ever shot one of those? Oh, yeah. Primo. We're actually giving it away. And, but of course, I get to shoot it first.
Let's make sure that we get to plug for that. So, because I know our listeners are going to want to know how they can win that gun. Why don't you do that right now, real quickly, but so I don't forget? Oh, yeah, my God.
Just go to gun rights. If you go to gunrights.org and you'll see the sign up there. Get on our email list, go on our social media. You'll see the sign up for this rifle. It's a Scar 20S and 6.5 Creedmoor with the Night Force attacker scope. And,
Creedmoor, jeez, that is a monster gun. Look at that, beautiful.
And I actually have shot this gun already, and the only negative it has is it is extremely loud, largely because of the brake. But a very precise rifle, especially for a semi-automatic. I'm going to see how far I can stretch it out today.
Wow, beautiful rifle.
Probably hit 1,200 yard target.
There you go. Yeah. Sign up today. I'm going to sign up too.
And hey, and I'm a gun person, Austin. Obviously,
yeah.
I'm not some Gucci loafer lobbyist in Washington D.C. But I'm a gun person. This is what I do all the time, as much as I can. I'd rather do this than go to some cocktail party in Washington D.C. and shake some Congress critter's hand. But again, shooting guns, really buying guns, doesn't do anything to save the Second Amendment. What saves it is enormous pressure on politicians, holding the line, never buying into their garbage. And one of my rules is, at least if you get screwed, at least know it. And we got screwed by Donald Trump. I ain't buying that anymore, and I don't think gun owners should. So,
if you want a chance to win that gun, make sure you visit nationalgunrights.org and join the institution that is fighting for your American freedom. One last question here before I let you go, Dudley. If Hunter Biden's last name was Brown or Peterson, and there had been videos and photos of him with a gun and a couple ounces of crack, where would he be right now?
Yeah, he'd be locked up. We all know it.
Should he be?
And the opposite is true, right? I mean, isn't the opposite true? I mean, didn't we hear lock her up, lock her up, lock her up, and then Donald Trump gets thrown in jail, and then wait, he doesn't believe in lock her up anymore. So to be consistent, you know,
is it my right to smoke crack and wield a weapon?
No, probably not. I mean, I will admit, Austin, I have moved a lot to the libertarian world. But I'm probably not a let's legalize heroin.
Okay, well, I am definitely for legalizing heroin, and don't think you should lose your rights just because you've done a little bit of heroin. Same with beer, same with with all alcohols and with all drugs. But I guess maybe I'll convince you on that another day. Dudley, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before I let you go?
No, I just want you to come out to Northern Colorado. I'll bring you to the range, let you shoot some machine guns. We'll drink some good whiskey and some craft beer.
After we shoot, for sure. Dudley, thank you very much for your time today. Grateful to have you here. The National Association for Gun Rights, fighting to be at the forefront of freedom, as you are, Dudley. Thanks for your time, and thanks for standing up and giving it to both sides with both barrels. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do you think of Dudley? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. Boy, he wasn't holding back, was he? And I'm not going to hold back either when I tell you why. It's not just a good idea to buy lots of guns. You should buy lots of gold, too. I'm a real libertarian, which means that I stockpile brass, lead, and gold and silver. And my friends over at Lear Capital have got a great deal going on right now, where if you buy an ounce of gold, you're going to get an ounce of silver, too. But you better act now. Give them a call at 1-800-885-2175. They've got a beautiful deal going on right now over at Lear Capital. As beautiful as the coins and bars that they will sell to you at a very good price. And now's a good time to be getting, because the price has gotten a little bit lower than it has been historically. Now's a good time to get yourself some gold at a great price at 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175, or visit learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. LEAUSTIN.com. My lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, says she wants to go to Colorado. Bring me. Steffi, of course, I'm going to take you if we go to Colorado to shoot guns with Dudley Brown. But how can we afford to do so? Well, maybe we should invest in some gold. Let's call our friends today over at Lear Capital at 1-800-885-2175. Call them today. Let them know you love the Wake Up America show, that you love to support institutions that are fighting for freedom, not just National Association for Gun Rights, but Lear Capital as well at LEARAUSTIN.com. Maybe you're not ready to buy yet, but you just need more info. If you visit that website, LearAustin.com, they're going to send you a free gold and silver information kit, and they won't bug you all the time. They'll call you once, and then they won't bug you after that. So don't worry about it. It's not some high-pressure sales tactics, but you should support freedom and financial security by giving them a call and letting them know, hey, I just want you to know I appreciate what Austin Peterson is doing on the Wake Up America show, and I appreciate that Lear Capital appreciates it. So I'm going to give you a call today and find out more about how to secure my financial future. Visit 1-800, LearAustin.com, or call 1-800-885-2175. All right, I'm kind of tired, and the show's almost over. I'm just going to go take a 2-second break. I'm going to be right back. And when I come back, I'm going to... What am I going to do? I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the rest. Oh, my God. I've got like a ton more content here I didn't even get to. Hold on. What do I have down here? Oh, my God. Have you been pooping wrong? I'll be right back to talk about how you've been pooping wrong on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American. Hey, I'm back. In fact, I'm back so fast that the music is still playing over there. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Glad to have you here. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Boy, I got to tell you, I'm exhausted, man. We had a great show today. Dudley Brown from Association for Gun Rights, Judge Napolitano. We talked about Trump being the only president, American president without ancestral ties to slavery, which I find absolutely hilarious. What else have we done? What was your favorite topic? Maybe it's going to be this one. Have you been pooping wrong your whole life? A doctor reveals a hack. It's a case of form following bodily function. Apparently, most people, at least here in the United States and Western countries, have been pooping wrong our entire lives. A UK TikTok doctor is making a splash online after revealing the correct technique for unleashing the Kraken, which involves finding the perfect angle of ablution, as seen in a tutorial with over 126,000 views. Thank you, New York Post. The advice was posted by NHS surgeon Karan Rajan, who has amassed 5 million followers by offering advice on uncomfortable topics. In the past, he's talked about tips on how to gauge someone's penis length without a ruler and reasons to never hold in farts. That's good. I never do. In the latest, slightly cringeworthy video, the good doctor explains how to have a truly wonderful dump without a squatty potty, the floor level toilet that's kind of standard in Asian countries like China and Pakistan and places like that. Focus on the angles, he says, particularly the unique angle between your abdomen and your thighs. Make it as small as possible. He says you can reduce this thigh torso angle by leaning forwards when unleashing the brown kraken. The doctor says poopers should combine this with raising their heels so they're leaning on the balls of their feet and thereby placing their knees above their hips. This elevated position can also be accomplished by resting one's feet on a rolled up towel. So if you don't have a squatty potty, you want to try and get your knees up above your hips, right? Because that's apparently the best way for us to poop. The puborectalis, the muscle that wraps around the rectum, is now relaxed, causing the rectum to straighten and giving you a smoother exit. And if you've been drinking coffee this morning, then you probably are ready to go and squat on the potty. Revolt24 says, I'm 6'5". Every toilet is a squatty potty to me. Hey, listen, did you like the Wake Up America show? Then why don't you do us a favor and offer us some support? Drop a super chat or a donation over on Rumble, wherever you can. Help us to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty by helping our economic situation over here. It does cost a lot of money to run this show. There's lots of little hidden things, software that I have to pay monthly subscriptions for and things like that to keep all the bells and whistles running, bringing in cameras when things break, lights when they fall over, different things like that. I'd love it if you wouldn't mind just kicking in maybe $5 today to help us to spread the message, or maybe becoming a monthly subscriber on YouTube or on Rumble if you like that content. And I know some of you who've been watching us for a little while have been thinking about it. And just so you know, it's not just $5 going in a hole every month. You do get a 20% discount at ap4libertyshop.com. So as long as you're a monthly subscriber, no matter how much you donate, you get a 20% discount at the shop. And you do get free merchandise if you win our monthly drawings. Last month, we gave away a free shirt from ap4libertyshop.com to one of our monthly subscribers. So every once in a while, you might just randomly win some sweet merch. And you get to choose the merch that you want from ap4libertyshop.com. So why don't you do us a favor and drop us in there and help us out, and we would be super grateful. It's been nice to see all of our new friends joining us over on YouTube, people like Anna Bananarama and many others. Grateful to have it. I know you guys have been fighting like cats and dogs a little bit over there on YouTube. I haven't been able to monitor it, but I hope that at the end of the day, we'll all realize we're all in the same team and we're all pulling in the same direction. We all believe in limited government and freedom, and that's what we fight for. That's why we do the show. That's what I believe in. I'm grateful to have you here. We've got Wednesdays coming up. Gavin McInnes is going to be on the show on Friday. I'm super excited. I'm a big fan of Gavin. We're going to have Gavin on the show. He's going to do a nice half-hour segment with us on Friday. Gavin McInnes, punk rock conservative, is going to be joining us this Friday, and it'll be Family Friday, so I guess we'll just have to say Gavin McInnes is part of our family. Let's practice pooping, says Steffi P for Liberty. Yes, Katie 55 isn't this 55 sex? 556. The squatty potty is supposed to fix that. Yes, it is supposed to fix that. Again, if you're watching us over on Rumble, before you leave, click that like button and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.